Hi, I'm Mike Smith for FilmBook.com, and this is my audio podcast review of Season 1, Episode 1 of Gotham, written by Bruno Heller and directed by Danny Cannon. There's a lot going on in this first hour of Fox's new Batman Without Batman cop drama, so I'm going to divide this episode up a little bit. But to give a brief overview, I think the pilot episode of Gotham proved that the show does have potential, even if it isn't quite living up to it yet. First, let me discuss what I wasn't crazy about, since I'd like to end on a positive note. Based on what this pilot has to offer, it almost seems like this show would be a lot better if it were just a cop show that had no connection to the Batman mythos. I say this because almost any time Gotham tries to work in a connection to that universe, it pretty much falls flat on its face. There are no less than 4 villain introductions in this first episode, and honestly, there are probably more. We get our first glimpses of the Penguin, the Riddler, Carmine Falcone, and Poison Ivy, plus Selina Kyle, and that comedian playing at the club was probably the Joker, who knows? To say this pilot is overstuffed is an understatement, because on top of all those introductions and glorified cameos, we also need to be introduced to Gordon and his partner Bullock, Gordon's fiancée Barbara, Fish Mooney, and also, deal with Bruce Wayne and his murdered parents. That's a lot to take on, to say the least. The episode begins with Selina Kyle combing the streets of Gotham, stealing wallets and milk from citizens, because cats like milk, get it? She's there to witness the Wayne murders, and look, maybe this isn't the show's fault, but I've seen Thomas and Martha Wayne die in countless adaptations of Batman over the years, and I'll likely see it happen 100 times more. The execution of the scene was fine, but it lacked any kind of emotional resonance for 2 reasons. 1, it's overfamiliar to anyone with even a passing knowledge of Batman. And 2, this is the first time we're seeing Bruce and his parents. The episode plays the murder like a procedural cop show, a matter-of-fact case that will probably serve as the backbone of this season. A lot of scenes in the early going don't fare much better. Gordon in the pilot is more of a mouthpiece than anything, serving as the show's moral center rather than functioning as an actual character. His early scenes with his partner Bullock dip into cliché pretty fast, and at this point, Gotham starts to settle as being a fairly standard cop show. The villain introductions, though, are by far the worst, especially the Riddler, who gets one scene where someone literally tells him to stop telling riddles, and Poison Ivy, whose actual name is now Ivy, and she's a little girl who likes plants. I'm doubtful they'll follow up on that one, though. It seemed more like fan service than anything else. Now, I've talked a lot about what doesn't work in this pilot, so let me talk some about what does. Like I said, the show is clunky in the early going, but around the halfway mark, the episode actually started to pick up. It's pretty clear from the outset that Donald Logue and Jada Pinkett Smith are going to be the highlights of this show, and the second half of this pilot gives each time to shine, with Logue playing the grizzled badass and Smith giving a performance worthy of the Adam West Villain Hall of Fame. Of all the Batman villains introduced tonight, the one we spend the most time with is Oswald Cobblepot, but don't call him the Penguin because he hates that. Robin Lord Taylor seems to be having fun with the role, and he's at the center of some of the best scenes in the episode. His confrontation with Fish Mooney, Gordon pretending to kill him, and his chilling final scene after the fact. But the show has the most success introducing Carmine Falcone, who has a great scene discussing the murky politics of Gotham with Gordon. And ultimately, that's more in line with what I'm hoping to see from this show. Show me why Gotham is corrupt and why the city will eventually need Batman. This is a dark time in Gotham's history, and this series needs to explore it to its fullest. Scenes like this one, and Gordon pretending to murder the Penguin at Bullock's insistence, give the show that much-needed edge. And of course, the show looks very good. Pilot director Danny Cannon captures a very cinematic feeling for the show, and even has a little fun with the camera from time to time, especially in Gordon's chase scene with Mario Pepper. The show takes visual cues from the Batman adaptations that have come before it, most heavily from the Nolan films and Batman the Animated Series. And finally, my one weird bit of neuroses for the evening. If there are fans of Futurama listening to this podcast, doesn't the actor playing Crispus Allen, one of the Gotham detectives, look exactly like Barbados Slim? This has no effect on the show's quality, of course, but man, it's weird. Like, distractingly weird. Also, I read an interview with Bruno Heller where he hinted that, while the season will not reveal the Joker, every episode might have a character who could end up being the Joker. So the end of this podcast every week will be dedicated to finding that character. This week is pretty obvious. The comedian playing at Fish Mooney's club. Hell, I was pretty certain she was going to call him a Joker right there on the spot. Anyway, that does it for me. Thank you for listening to Gotham City's podcast. I'm Mike Smith. If you're listening to this review on YouTube or Daily Motion, please subscribe to our channel, like, and comment on the video below. If you're listening to this review via our podcast on iTunes, please subscribe to our podcast, rate it, and take a moment to give us a review. For more of my thoughts on Gotham and other films and TV shows, check out my work at FilmBook.com or follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/msmithfilmblog. Hope to see you soon.